So for those of you who are going to be drafting on ESPN over the next handful of weeks, I wanted to give you my favorite picks at different positional groups. I thought about doing it round by round, but it's kind of boring, and obviously you could be picking first or last, and obviously my favorite pick or two probably isn't going to be someone you're able to pick because people are picking all over the place, so I kind of wanted to break it down more by positional group. So the fun thing about ESPN is they do kind of lag behind in some of their ADPs. Obviously, like Lamar, Josh, Jaden, they're all kind of like pretty standard. There's nothing too crazy for them, in my opinion, until you get later in your QB selections. You scroll down just a little bit down here, we have Dak Prescott at QB number 13 going at pick 105. I think that Dak going as QB 13 and being undrafted on ESPN is so criminal. It's kind of insane. The guy historically has finished as a top 5 QB through the games that he does play every single season, the majority of his career. So when it comes to this coming season, I think Dak's going to have the best offensive unit he's had as far as passing the ball, probably since he's been in the league. It's right up there with Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb in his sophomore season. So the next one I thought was kind of insane is going to be Jared Goff. He's going as QB 17 on ESPN. The last 2 seasons, Jared Goff has been a top 10 quarterback in fantasy football. I understand Ben Johnson left, but the key components of this team are still going to be there. I'm not saying that Jared Goff needs to be QB 6 or QB 7, but for him to be undrafted in 12-man leagues, I think is kind of crazy. I anticipate seeing him ending up finishing as a QB1 in fantasy football, and he's somebody that you can pretty much take at the very end of your draft if you're on ESPN and you go late round quarterback. I take Dak myself, but if you don't want to take Dak, you can always take Jared Goff. And if you don't want to take either one of those, Drake May is still not being drafted on ESPN either, and I think Drake May is going to be in store for a much better season than last year. And I think he's going to run the ball a lot. So when it comes to the tight ends, nothing too crazy. Pretty much the usual suspects of Brock Bowers, Sherman McBride, George Kittle, kind of running down the list. David Njoku, in my opinion, is a little overranked. I understand last season he had some, high games. His fantasy points per game, I think, was at the 4th highest. He didn't play as many games as most people, but it was at the 4th highest out of the tight ends. I don't like him going this high only because we don't know what the quarterback situation is really going to look like with the Browns. So if I was you, I'd not be drafting David Njoku this high. Again, I feel like most people kind of already know it's either early tight end or we're waiting on some of these later round guys. When it comes to the later round guys on ESPN, I think Evan Ingram is appropriately priced. I think it's a little bit of risk, a little bit of reward. If he ends up being the 2nd target earner, maybe even the 3rd target earner for the Broncos, I think he could end up smashing as far as from a PPR standpoint. And ESPN, I believe, is generically on PPR. I do think when it comes to Tyler Warren, him going as tight end 12 is pretty much still a discount. You're getting a guy who realistically could lead the Colts in targets. It wouldn't be anything too crazy to imagine that. Even if he's number 2 behind Michael Pittman or Josh Downs, he still could be an elite tight end. He very well could be the guy who breaks out this season, much like Brock Bowers did last year, Sam Laporta did the year before. I think that out of the 2 rookie tight ends between Colston Loveland and Tyler Warren, I think Tyler Warren has a better opportunity because the target competition around him is not as high of a quality in my estimation as Colston Loveland's going to face with the Bears. 3 more late round tight ends that I think are surprisingly undervalued. That being Chigaquanquo for Tennessee. In my humble opinion, he's going to be the number 2 target earner for Cam Ward. So again, not somebody you necessarily have to draft, but somebody you keep an eye on. From there, we have Zach Ertz, who last season was a tight end 1 in a PPR format. So he's not being drafted anywhere remotely close to that. Again, not somebody you have to draft, see how the Commanders play out. But if he starts flashing and Debo's looking kind of old, then Zach Ertz might not be a bad person to pick up off the waiver wire. The last person is going to be Brenton Strange for the Jags. Obviously, Travis Hunter coming in is going to eat up some of those targets from Evan Ingram. But historically speaking, they have thrown the ball quite a bit to that position. So there is a huge chunk of targets that are going to be vacated. Obviously, when it comes to running backs, this is where we're going to find more of our value in our drafts along with wide receivers. I'm not a huge fan of Christian McCaffrey going as the running back 4. I like him both on Sleeper, Yahoo going a little bit later in your drafts. I just like the idea of not taking as much risk because if he's going as pick number 7 overall, his first round pick, a lot of risk associated with him. I would like to get that 2nd round discount, and if I can't get that in ESPN, I think it's a little bit too high for me. The other person is Ashton Genty. I think he's just ranked a little bit too high for everybody out there. I don't think that he's going to end up paying off a top 4, top 5 running back draft spot. So from there, we get into a couple good values because, again, they're going after McCaffrey, Genty, A-Chain, and Taylor. Josh Jacobs, as far as I'm concerned, is still going to be in a smash spot. So him going down here at pick 18 after these other running backs, I think you're getting a good value on your pick. He is still going to be someone in a high-scoring offense who's going to be the pretty much every single down running back for this team. And then Derrick Henry being ranked as the 9th running back on ESPN is so criminal, it's painful. If you get to the anywhere in round 2, he's anywhere around pick number 19, you have got to be like click, 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 lizard, 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 lizard the button. Because Derrick Henry going that late is absolutely insane and, again, criminal. From there, I think that they have James Cook a little bit too high. I know it's kind of a spice take that I've had before. Only person that I think is kind of spicy is Travion Henderson. I think he's kind of being overvalued. I think him and RJ Harvey have pretty equivalent profiles. I'm not saying their play styles are the same, but I feel like their usage and how they're actually going to progress throughout the season, I just feel like they're very, very similarly profiled people on their teams who want to rely on running the ball but also playing really good defense. So they shouldn't need to be scoring as many points. So I just feel like they're both very similar, where if you look at some of the other platforms, they're going very, very close together. Travion Henderson on ESPN is going a lot higher. I think he's an overpriced pick at that point in time, so it's not something I would be interested in if I was drafting on ESPN. I think Breece Hall being all the way down here after all these other running backs, he is being dramatically undervalued. I'm not saying that Breece Hall is going to be the running back 3 or running back 4, running back 5, but he is going as a bottom of the barrel running back 2 on ESPN. I think it's kind of a smash the button pick on Breece Hall. If he bounces back at all to where he was at in 2023, he's somebody that you're getting as an RB2 price tag who could finish as an RB1 realistically. It's just too much value to pass up on, especially if we do end up seeing Justin Fields struggle as much as it kind of seems like he's going to struggle this season. And if that ends up being the case, then there's a real reality where they pound the ball with Breece Hall and try and play good defense and win games that way. And if that's the reality, Breece Hall will potentially end up smashing in fantasy football this coming season. So from there, Isaiah Pacheco being all the way down here at pick number 72, I think is kind of insane. I think he should be a little bit closer to this DeAndre Swift, Travion Henderson, David Montgomery range. So you are getting a little bit of a discount on him there as well. So another person who's been dramatically pushed down in the rankings on ESPN is Quinshon Judkins. I think that there's a real reality where he does not end up facing any type of suspension or time away from the team. As long as he gets signed before the season starts, if his ADP sticks around right around here in the 90s, you're getting a guy who's going as more of an RB3 who has the potential to finish as an RB2. If you're looking at other drafting sites, he is actually dramatically higher. His ADP hasn't dropped quite as much. So I feel like on ESPN, you are getting a pretty good free shot on a late round running back who's more than likely going to be the RB1 on his team in 2025. So I have 3 more running backs that I think are being kind of criminally undervalued on ESPN, and I think you can find some great opportunities with all 3 of these picks. So number 1 is going to be Travis Etienne going as pick 116. Again, if you're looking at other platforms, he's going dramatically higher, more of like an early 90s pick. So you're getting almost a 2-round discount on him. All through the preseason, we've seen him playing first-team snaps. I'm not saying Travis Etienne didn't burn you last year like he burned me. I am not saying that he's going to be the full-time starter the entire season. I'm not going to say that by any means because I don't know if that's what we're going to end up seeing. But what I do know is that I believe he will be the starter at the beginning of the season. So you're getting a late-round pick on a guy who's an RB1, more than likely on his team to start week 1, basically for free towards the end of your draft. From there, Jordan Mason going at pick 119 is absolutely criminal as well. He's going again towards the beginning of the 100s on other platforms. So you're getting, again, about a 2-round discount on him. Aaron Jones is going to miss dramatic time this season. He ends up getting injured almost every year, aside from last year. And I also think there's a reality, even if Aaron Jones doesn't get injured, where he starts to get supplanted game after game by Jordan Mason, who is the more talented, younger, healthier back, aside from his collarbone issue from last year. Situation can be very, very similar from the 49ers to the Vikings. Great offensive line, great weapons. Jordan Mason is going to fill in and I think eventually take over this backfield for the Vikings, who project to be a top 10 scoring team in 2025. The last running back who I think is being criminally undervalued is Zach Charbonnet. Unfortunately, Kenneth Walker has a hard time staying healthy. I hope he stays healthy this season because he is definitely somebody I want to draft in 2025. But if he does go down, Zach Charbonnet is automatically elevated to what? An RB2 worst case scenario? Like a high-end RB2 as well. So he is somebody who, again, on other platforms is going around like 110, so still getting a 2-round discount. if Kenneth Walker goes down, he is going to help win people leagues, especially if they didn't draft Kenneth Walker and you have Zach Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker goes down. He's going to be a smash pick for you that you are happy drafting it towards the end of your draft. So as we're looking to the wide receivers, something that I've noticed on all platforms, this is like the consensus ADP, is that Drake London is going all the way down here, typically around like wide receiver 10. He finished in a PPR format, again, ESPN, PPR format as wide receiver 5. I just think the last 3 games with Michael Penix, he really flashed. The man had a huge amount of targets in those games, huge amount of yards, huge amount of touchdowns. I think you're going to see a reality where he is going to be the big breadwinner from Michael Penix Jr. being the starting quarterback, who's going to be a decent quarterback this coming season, probably more like league average, but it doesn't matter if the majority of those targets are going to Drake London and Bijan Robinson, obviously. I just think that you're getting a value on Drake London no matter where you're drafting. Somebody I don't like on any platform that I've seen in a redraft format is JSN. I think he's just overrated, overvalued at the wide receiver position based on his talent, his situation, and just what this team is going to want to do in 2025. So it's not somebody I'd be willing to draft at that spot. If he was going maybe 5, 6, 7, 8, probably more like 6, 7, 8. Wide receiver spots later, I'd be more interested, but right here, there's just no way. Can't do it, won't do it on any platform. And this is pretty much where he's going, around 34, 36, 33 in all your redraft platforms. So 2 guys that I think you are getting a discount on, George Pickens, as is Ted McMillan, being undervalued for where they're going to end up finishing. George Pickens is, again, being undervalued as well. He is someone who's going to be the 3rd best, maybe 4th best at worst, wide receiver 2 in real football and fantasy football. He deserves to be dramatically higher in the wide receiver rankings. I don't know how you could have him after Jalen Waddle or Jerry Jeudy or Devonta Smith or Zay Flowers. He's going to finish a lot higher than where he's finished traditionally in fantasy football. Same thing with Ted McMillan. He's going to be the number 1 wide receiver target for the Panthers. I think he's going to be in a smash spot where he's going to be the just big recipient of the majority of targets for this football team. So some more undervalued people that I would obviously have higher would be the likes of like Jacoby Myers. 1,000-yard season last season. I would anticipate around 1,000 yards this coming year. Stephon Diggs, number 1 target earner for his team. Also, you really can't draft Travion Henderson, in my opinion, as high as is going on ESPN. So if you want a piece of the offense for the Patriots, Stephon Diggs is probably your ticket to get in there. Cooper Kupp is overvalued. I would have Cooper Kupp way down towards the bottom. I don't think Sam Darnold and that team is going to be as good as people think it's going to be in Seattle. They're going to want to run the ball, play a lot of defense. So again, Cooper Kupp, JSN, just the situation is not what I want. So both of them are kind of overvalued. Some more undervaluings is Khalil Shakir, Juwan Jennings, and Ricky Pearsall. Super undervalued in my estimations. When it comes to Khalil Shakir, he's going to be on a top 5 scoring offense with the Buffalo Bills. I don't think he was 100%, moving and grooving with Josh Allen last year. I think he's being dramatically undervalued. I think there's a reality where he ends up being a wide receiver 2, fringe wide receiver 1, if him and Josh can get on the same page throughout the entire season, and it's just him and Josh locked in, and we're not worried about anybody else. So continuing on, overvalued Keon Coleman. Khalil Shakir is definitely more talented, and unless Keon Coleman takes a massive leap, which I don't anticipate seeing because of how poorly he played last season, it's just not a pick I'd be making at pick 100 for a wide receiver 2 on the Bills team. Doesn't make sense to me. From there, Rashid Shaheed has continued to move up in these drafts, and it is pissing me off more and more every day. I've been screaming to the mountaintops for the last month and a half about Rashid Shaheed, telling you he is going to be in a smash spot. I do not care as much about the quarterback situation. I have faith in Kellen Moore to set up Spencer Rattler to be minimum bottom of the barrel league average-ish quarterback. I'm fine if he's just kind of you're not really league average, a little bit below. Realistically, Rashid Shaheed is a better talent than Chris Olave. He's going a little bit higher here than some other formats, but for me, if you can still snag him and you can fit that into your draft strategy, he's a great pick. Emeka Egbuka being there is absolutely a smash spot as well. He realistically could end up by the end of the season, depending on how fast Chris Godwin comes back, he could start outpacing Mike Evans as the season goes on the back 9, I guess. In targets, receptions, yards, he really could end up emerging as the true wide receiver 1 on this football team in the home stretch of the season. For your deeper league teams, the people that I would say burning into your head because you just don't necessarily know what's going to end up happening would be Trey Harris for the Chargers. I know Keenan Allen came over, but I don't know how much more juice Keenan Allen has. I think Trey Harris is very, very, very talented wide receiver, so keep him in the back of your head. The other one is Kyle Williams for the Patriots. If Stephon Diggs gets injured, loses a step, Kyle Williams is going to end up being a smash player because I think his talent profile at Washington was fantastic. And I think that if Stephon Diggs does take a step back or hurts himself, he's going to have to be the wide receiver one. Him and Travion Henderson will smash on this team. Another person I do like a lot, again, based on his profile, is Pat Bryant for the Denver Broncos. I think he could end up being a smash pick. Really, really, really late. Probably more of a best ball guy. Probably more of a super deep league, probably even more than 12 teams. But if you want someone to pay attention to as we get closer to the season, Pat Bryant, Trey Harris, I think, and then Kyle Williams are all people that I would have on my radar of like early waiver wire pickups if you're not wanting to draft them with one of your last picks, which I understand because they're probably not being drafted in most people's formats, which is completely fine. But just like I said, keep them in the back of your mind. So those are my favorite players to pick and my players that I am trying to avoid every single time in my draft or who I just think are being overvalued on ESPN. Hopefully me kind of telling you my favorite picks, people who I think are values, people who I think are people that you should kind of avoid and fade, helps you get a little bit closer to winning your fantasy football championship. If you're specifically drafting on ESPN, and if you're drafting on another platform, you probably take a little bit of this information away and utilize it as well, but obviously it won't be as helpful unless you're drafting, again, on ESPN. If you guys are looking for other late round league winners that I may not have touched in this video, I will have a video around here somewhere. Hopefully I'll see you guys again. No, hopefully you guys will see me again real soon. Until then, y'all have a blessed day. Bye.